Hello friends, this is Anil. I'm again back with you in different sessions. I'm happy to say that I have certified all GCP certifications, and for you I have launched practice test for all the 11 GCP certification probably you would like to go through. I will share my Udemy profile link in the video description, okay, so that you can go through and take the advantage. Today we will know what are some best practices for using service accounts. For that, let's know first what is service accounts in nutshell. So service accounts represent non-human users. They are intended for scenarios where a workload such as custom application needs to access resources or perform actions without end user involvement. They are both a resource and a principal. As a principal, a service account can be granted access to resources like cloud storage bucket. As a resource, a service account can be accessed and possibly impersonated by other principals like a user or a group. How service account can be abused? This is pretty much big risk and potential risk where service account keys can go in wrong hands and we need to take care of them. Although service accounts are a useful tool, there are several ways in which service accounts can be abused. One, which is privilege escalation. A bad actor might gain access to resources otherwise we would not have access to by impersonating the service account. Spoofing. A bad actor might use service account impersonation to obscure their identity. Non-repudiation. A bad actor might conceal their identity and actions by using a service account to carry out operations on their behalf. In some of cases, it might not be possible to trace these actions to the bad actor. This is more risky. Information disclosure. A bad actor might derive information about your infrastructure, applications, or processes from the existence of certain service accounts. So we have to be very careful as a developer while using service account. These are beautiful architecture or flow diagram that helps us to choose when to use service account. Okay, so let's start. Are you running a code in a single user development environment? If yes, just check, does your use case require a service account? If yes, you need to impersonate a service account. Please do not authenticate with user credentials. If you are not running your code in single user development environment, are you running your code in Google Cloud? If yes, you might be running your code or containers in GKE or Anthos. Then probably you will configure workload identity. You should not attach a service account. Now coming back to the left side, does your workload use an external identity provider? Yes. Then please configure workload identity federation. Fourth box, can you use service account impersonation? Yes. Then go and impersonate a service account. Do not use service account key. Best practices for managing service accounts. Manage service accounts as a resource. Service accounts are not associated with any particular employee. Instead, it's best to think of service accounts as resources that belong to or part of another resource, such as a particular PM instance or an application. To effectively manage service accounts, do not look at service accounts in isolation. Instead, consider them in the context of the resources they are associated with and manage the service account and its associated resources as one unit. Apply the same processes, same life cycle, and same diligence to the service account and its associated resources and use the same tools to manage them. Best practices for managing service account number 2. Please create single purpose service account. Sharing a single service account across multiple applications can complicate the management of service account for you. So, you would need to take several steps to avoid these complications. Create dedicated service accounts for each application and avoid using default service accounts. Don't use automatic role grants for default service accounts. Use Google's tools to understand service accounts page, which can help you monitor usage and prevent service accounts from being shared across multiple applications. Third, follow naming and documentation convention. This will help you to track the association between service and an application or resource, following a naming convention when creating a new service accounts. So you would like to add prefix to the service account email address. For example, BM for service accounts attached to BM instances, WI for service accounts used for workload identity, WIF for service accounts used by workload identity federation, on-prem for service accounts used by an on-prem applications. Embed the name of application in service account email address. For example, if this is travel expense application, you will have BM hyphen travel expense at the rate. That means BM is running this travel expense application. Most important part is description field. Just add your contact person, links to relevant documentation or other, so that some other developer can contact you regarding your service account. Fourth is identity and disable unused service accounts. When a service account is not used anymore, disable the service account to reduce the risk of the service account being abused. For single purpose service accounts that are associated with a particular resource such as a PM, disable the service account as soon as the associated resource is disabled or deleted. For service accounts that are used for multiple purposes, that means that is shared across multiple resources, it can be more difficult to identify whether the service account is still used. In these cases, you can use Activity Analyzer to view the most recent authentication activities for your service account. Please avoid using groups for granting service accounts access to resources. Disable unused service accounts before deleting them. This is good practice. If you have identified a service account that you want to delete, first disable. The service accounts such as App Engine or Compute Engine default service account, these service accounts can't be recreated without disabling and re-enabling the respective API, which might break your existing deployment. So if you don't, so you don't use the default service accounts, disable them instead, right? Do not directly delete them. So it's best not to delete service accounts immediately, and instead disable a service account if it is not needed anymore, and only delete it after a certain period of time. Thank you for your time today, and be happy.